Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. I'm back, everyone. I was gone last week. Felt bad about it, but I have returned. Garry is feeling a little under the weather this week, so we're going to be missing Garry this week, but the rest of the crew is here on Stats Over Politics, episode number 59. I'm Shaun alongside Kevin Dent and Jaevon and Kevin, I would imagine that you're feeling pretty great right now.
I'm doing well, man. I cannot complain. But all football aside, as everyone knows, all the day one listeners, there's always a dog barking in the background. That is my son, Blue. It is his first birthday today. So it's been a surreal day, man, seeing your dog age and just to see how fast time truly goes. And I know I'm not a real parent, and, this time next year, Toddy will have the same experience with his. But, it just seems so fast. The time's going by so much faster than it really is. And to see him be 1 year old, man, is crazy to think.
Time flies. Happy birthday, Blue. That's awesome. Yeah, I have a similar experience where I brought my dog home when he was 6 weeks old. And when he hit his first birthday, it was a huge milestone. And now my dog's almost 12. So time's going to fly by for you, I could imagine. And so value that time. Toddy, how are we doing? Was the weekend good to you with the bets?
Never better, right? Never better. Thank you, 49ers.
Well, I take that as no, it did not, unfortunately. And
I think the hotline actually did all right.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad the hotline did well. So that's good to hear. And so we're going to get to Vonny's hotline here on episode number 59 of Stats Over Politics. But first, we got to get into the big news of the weekend, and that is the fact that the San Francisco 49ers lost their third game in a row after starting the season 5-0 as the Bengals beat the 49ers 31-17. Toddy, I'm going to toss it to you first as the other 49ers fan on this panel. And Kevin, if you'd like me to give my 2 cents on this as well, because I did miss last week in another loss against the Vikings, and Kirk Cousins, feel bad for him now since what's happened in the last week, but he beat the Niners. And so it's been a rough couple weeks, Jaevon, for us as 49ers fans. And I saw your comments both on the podcast last week, but also on Instagram that hopefully Kevin and all the haters, they will rue the day, and the Niners, they will come back and they will redeem themselves. But how are you feeling after a third straight loss for the San Francisco 49ers, Jaevon?
Not good. Have they figured us out? Is the jig up?
I guess so.
On everybody else to where it's like, all right, the jig is up, guys. This was a nice little ride that you had. The magic dust is starting to wear off because the clock's starting to strike midnight. Is Prince Charming turning into a frog? Is this actually happening right now? Is Fiona turning back into an ogre? Is this actually happening?
I love it. I love it, Toddy.
It's beginning to get frustrating because he was a guy, he being Brock Purdy, a guy that, values and not turning the ball over, taking care of the ball, having a good touchdown to turnover ratio, good QBR, and just basically running the offense, staying within and, being able to take care of the ball. yeah, like in the past, in each loss, he's had a turnover, whether that's a fumble or he's throwing it to the other team, dead in the hands. So it's kind of just getting to the point where like, what are you seeing on the field that's causing you to go back to the same exact thing, and you're constantly throwing it to the and it usually happens like in the middle of the field, but just the interception that he had in the red zone was just god awful. Like those are things that cannot happen at all. Like when I say, like just throw the ball away. Like you don't even. He was scrambling around. He had Brock Purdy gets a lot of. I feel like doesn't really get a lot of credit for the type of athlete that he is, and from him using his legs. I thought he used his legs fairly well this past game. But for him in the red zone to throw that, like, well, why would you even throw that? Just get out of bounds, take us whatever. You cannot turn the ball over in the red zone. I mean, that's just pretty much. I mean, I wouldn't say that he played bad. He threw for 360 plus, like whether that's him going over the middle of the field, guys are wide open. There's yak yards involved with that. I wouldn't say they played bad. I just think that his turnovers are so bad that it's outweighing pretty much his whole entire performance because these are game-changing interceptions. Like when you turn the ball over, Joe Burrow, like, first of all, the Niners can't stop. They can't hold water. They couldn't stop the Titanic from sinking in the ocean. Like it's getting to a point where guys are saying that Steve Wilks, like they're calling for Steve Wilks' job. And to where like he's going into the booth to call plays, and they're saying, well, he needs to be on the sidelines because he needs to be able to see the field better. I don't know, because usually if people that go into the booth, it's usually defensive coordinators, depending on how whatever their feel for the game is, they're usually on the field. But some people call it better in the booth. But that's neither here nor there. But Steve Wilks, how can this team be that bad on defense from what I saw? It's literally the exact same defense from last year, if not better. If not better. The talent on the defense is there. And when you just see guys going up and down on the field like Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, PJ Walker moved the ball on us. So it's just like, I get Brock Purdy turning the ball over. That's not good. That's actually really bad. I feel like that's half of the reason why we're losing all these games. But when the defense is just when the defense can't stop anybody and they're just getting the ball moved on them up and down the field, it's very alarming. And when you have guys like Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, who just signed a massive contract, Javon Hargrave, you signed to a massive contract, can't get pressure on the quarterback, and you're having to constantly send blitzes. I'm just like, why are we shouldn't even be having to have to do that? And I even saw on Richard Sherman's podcast, he said something about Steve Wilks used to be a defensive back coach and saying that he's not used to just getting, pressure on the quarterback and just having to send blitzes all the time. So he's not really accustomed to not having to blitz as much because he's used to everything on the back end. So it's very frustrating because the quarterback, who, by all standards, I mean, how many starts does Brock Purdy have? Like 13, 14?
Like 15, something like
15.
that.
So almost full season under his belt. So it's not like, hey, like this is something like you can't turn the ball over, man. And that's just, if you turn the ball over multiple times in the NFL, like 2-3 times, that's for anybody in the league. Even look at Mahomes this past weekend, who couldn't even score a touchdown this past weekend, and he's turning the ball over. You're not going to be able to win. It doesn't matter who you play. They beat the Broncos this past weekend. I'm pretty sure we'll get into that game later, but the quarterback can't turn the ball over, man. And it's not. And a combination of turning the ball over and your defense can't stop anybody, you're not going to win football games. And I don't know what the 49ers need to do because I'm just kind of over it. As far as betting goes for the San Francisco 49ers, they're on the shit list, man. I can't. You can't bet them. You can't bet them during the spread. I mean, shit. Are we going to be favored against Jacksonville after the bye week? I don't know. The way that they've been playing, so it's frustrating because you're looking at the teams like we're second in the division. Seattle's number 1 in the division. You just saw the Lions coming off a Monday night victory. They're 6-2. So you're kind of looking at, the other guys kind of coming up and say, like, all right, hey, maybe first place isn't as locked up as it is. Second place isn't as locked up as it is. We can have home field advantage during the playoffs. And, man, it's just going to come down to, can the Niners, pick themselves up by the bootstraps, figure out what's wrong with the defense, and can they not turn the ball over? So it's very frustrating because this is the 3rd game in a row. When any team loses 3 games in a row in the NFL, it's just like, whoa, like what's wrong? What's going on in San Francisco? I feel like the whole league is kind of put on notice. Like, what happened? Is this the same team that played Dallas on Sunday Night Football and absolutely trounced them 42-10? This is a totally different team. So I don't know, man. It's very frustrating from a gambling perspective and from an actual 49er perspective. It's very frustrating. One of the best teams in the league can't win a game, can't get stops, can't not turn the ball over. I don't know.
I completely agree. I've been very frustrated. I went to my mom's house to watch the second half of the game yesterday. And when I got there, she's like, Shaun, what's wrong with you? And when I got there, I felt fine. Like, I didn't feel like anything was wrong with me. But I guess she could just tell that my mood was off. And it was likely because I just watched the first half of that 49ers game against the Bengals. And just the failed opportunities that they had. And it was frustrating. And so now, Kevin, I'm going to bring this to you because a couple weeks ago, to be precise, actually about a month ago, about 4 weeks ago, the Eagles got to 4-0. They beat the Commanders in overtime. Eagles got to 4-0. And I asked you, should Eagles fans be concerned? Now let's flip it. Flip it on Jaevon and I. Because now, rather than getting 4 ugly wins like the Eagles did, and that's why I was asking you, should you be concerned as an Eagles fan? The 49ers have actually lost 3 games in a row. And so for you, Kevin, as an Eagles fan, from the outsider's perspective, should us 49ers fans be concerned by this 3-game losing streak, or is it kind of just an anomaly?
No, you definitely need to be concerned. Toddy, I'm going to ask you a question. What do they call the guy that's picked? Oh, he's not paying attention. Shaun, what do they call the last person drafted in the NFL draft?
Mr. Irrelevant.
That's his name, Mr. Irrelevant. I told everybody all season long, this Disney Channel movie is going to have to come to an end at some point, and it's continuous to the downward spiral. When you guys are ahead, Brock Purdy has 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. When you guys are trailing, it is 0 touchdowns to 5 picks and 1 fumble. Brock Purdy, we always talk about him being a system quarterback. When all things are going right, Brock Purdy's got to go out there and be successful. When things are not going right, we're going to see his true colors. Last game, everyone said that the second half was all because he was concussed, A, B, C, and D. We're going to throw that in the drain. For this game, for him to consistently throw you guys under the bus, his last 3 games, he's thrown for 762 yards, 5 interceptions, 1 fumble, and 3 touchdowns. Sacked 6 times, and all of those games are without Trent Williams. So it's really looking – you could talk about the offense, but let's talk about the defense. We ain't seen this defense show up since the Steelers game, if we're being honest. We talked about the guys that you guys have on this team. Javon Hargrave had 3 sacks that game. Everyone has sacks this game. Shaun, I don't know if you really caught this line from Toddy last week, but Skims boy, he was too worried about the Skims boy. We also always saw before the games, always saw on Twitter, he was trending. I'm thinking there's another pregame fight, but no. All they're talking about is him signing this Skims deal. And Shaun, you missed it last weekend, man. We had a special appearance by our guest, Wes.
I saw
had to come on here and just let it known to be Toddy. Before the show started, Toddy caught me talking to Wes. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna let you know when to come on. And then Toddy came. I was like, all right, I'm gonna hang up. And he goes, so who are you talking to? I was like, oh, nobody. So I wanted to make sure that I set the mood for this. But to the original question, should Niner fans be worried? Yes, because it only gets worse. We have the red hot Jacksonville Jags coming in, and you guys are going on. Is it in Jacksonville, I believe?
Yes,
I think so.
So Jacksonville is leading the NFL in takeaways, and Trevor Lawrence at home this last 5 games, 240 yards per game, 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions with a 70% completion rate. The Jags are playing great right now. We're starting to see the emergence of this offense and what we thought they can be. And the last thing I'm going to say on this before I pass it off is The Eagles were 4-0 playing bad, and there was a Super Bowl hangover. You guys lost 3 games in a row. Is there a NFC championship game hangover? I don't know. But Niner fans should definitely be worried.
So I'm going to attribute most of this to the fact that Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel are missing. And I know that that's a cop-out. I get it. But Trent Williams isn't one of the best linemen in the NFL. He's not one of the best left tackles in the NFL. He's the best by far. Like, it's not even close. So arguably you're missing arguably ever in the game of football, period. And so you're missing arguably the greatest offensive lineman in NFL history. And then you're missing one of your top playmakers who's so versatile that they had to create another name of a position and call him a wide back because he was so much of a wide receiver and a running back. And so to me, I won't be concerned. Like, number one, I'm trying not to overreact. I'm trying not to live in the moment too much and just focus on the fact that they're on a 3-game losing streak because of those 2 players missing. If everyone was out there, then I would be genuinely concerned. But until the 3-5, I think. I think it even got to 3-5. Yeah, because I believe I could be thinking, I believe that I'm thinking about 2022 because I went to a 49ers game on Monday Night Football against the Rams. And I believe that was last season when they were 3-5. And at that point, I was like, all right, we're about to get smacked by the Rams. The Rams were the reigning Super Bowl champions.
Yep,
and then the 49ers upset them on Monday Night Football. And then they went on that streak and they finished the season like something like 11-5 or 12-5. And so it's possible. I'm not going to overreact. Like, we're technically not even halfway through the season. It's now 17 games every season. So we're through 8 games, and the 49ers have a 5-3 record. If they started the season, Kevin, 3-2, and now they got to 5-3, I'd be feeling great. I mean, last season, as Jaevon and I just mentioned, they were 3-5. So I'm feeling optimistic because it feels like it's gone so bad, but yet here they are at 5-3. And until they get those 2 playmakers back, I won't start to be concerned.
I feel like the last 2 games that we played, like the Browns game at the end, that should have been a game that we won. The Vikings game, it was like we had a chance to win it. I feel like that also should have been a game to win. I feel like this game, we got our ass kicked. Like, it wasn't close. The score doesn't really reflect that how bad it actually was, but we got our ass drug up and down the field the entire game. And Purdy played bad. I wouldn't say bad. He played like he was part of the reason why we lost this game. And I would also say that for the Vikings game and for the Browns game. So just how close I feel like the last 2 games were, like we actually had a chance to win those games. I feel like this game, it was like, all right, we got drugged. It's very frustrating. I can't remember the last time we lost 3 games in a row. It's probably going back a few years when Kyle Shanahan probably first started out back in 2017. So we got to figure it out. We got to figure this shit out. I mean, the Cowboys have a better record than us right now. So it's a humbling week. We're going into the bye week. We gotta figure out what we need to do. Do we need to make some moves? Tomorrow's trade deadline, so Kev's been going back and forth saying that the Eagles are gonna get Surtain. If the Eagles get Surtain, I'm gonna freaking cry. I'm gonna throw up.
I'm gonna name my son Howie. My first kid, boy or girl, will be named Howie.
They already added Kevin Byard to the secondary this past week. So we'll see what the Niners do at the trade deadline. If we make any moves, if nothing happens, people stay put. Been seeing that the Commanders, as one of the announcers said over the weekend, the Commandos they're having a sale, I guess a fire sale. Montez Sweat and Chase Young are on the market apparently. So we'll see if the Niners make any moves at that. Do they fire Steve Wilkes? I'm not sure. A lot of people are kind of calling for his head. Kyle seemed visibly frustrated I just don't understand how bad this defense can be. Like, this is literally the exact same defense, if not better, as I've already said previously in the podcast, because this defense last year was like the best defense in football, and now we can't stop anybody.
Well, I want to make a counterpoint to that, and Gary's not here, so someone has to play devil's advocate, because I understand the point you're trying to make there, Jaevon, but also what we got to keep in mind is when the 49ers went from Robert Saleh to DeMeco Ryans as their new defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans was already in the system. He was already in the building for like 4 or 5 years at that point. He started as like a low-level assistant, became the linebackers coach, and then eventually got to defensive coordinator. And so DeMeco was already in the building. The guys already knew him. They already believed in him. Versus a Steve Wilks, he was in Carolina last year. He was the interim head coach in Carolina, arguably should have gotten that position, but then it went to Frank Reich. And so I would attribute it more so to the fact that it's just a new defensive coordinator, and you can't keep constantly. And the 49ers are having turnover for all the right reasons. Like all of these guys, whether if it be DeMeco and Robert Saleh going on to be head coaches, or even a Mike McDaniel going on to be a head coach, it's positives why these coaches are leaving the 49ers, but it does create turnover and less continuity and chemistry. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit with the 49ers defense. And so I would attribute that to be the reason as to why the defense has struggled in these last 3 weeks. But also, I'm really just looking at the 49ers missing 2 of their best players. I know they have a lot of great playmakers, but as Manny says on the YouTube comments, Debo is your most important playmaker. And I would agree with him, because even though Christian McCaffrey scored a touchdown in this game against the Bengals for his 17th straight game with a touchdown, which tied an NFL record, next week he's likely going to break that record for a consecutive touchdown streak. And after next week, because the 49ers are having a bye week this upcoming week. Thank you, Jaevon. And that leads me to my last point, which is that early buys, I would consider this an early buy in week 9. Actually, it's not actually early. That's literally at the exact midpoint of the season. So it's actually probably the perfect time for a buy, even if they weren't on a slump. And so now, yeah, it's unfortunate that the 49ers have to have 3 losses in a row sitting with them for 2 weeks, but I think this is good for them. It gives them a chance to regroup, reset, and then attack the second half of the season. Let's get a majority of the win so then they can be a high seed. It looks like if Philadelphia keeps cruising, and Kevin, I'm sure, thinks that they will, then Philly will end up with the number 1 seed again and the only first round bye. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And something else that Kaz mentioned in the YouTube comments is that Hurts was banged up and stepped up and played phenomenal. Purdy has a bit of adversity mixed with injury, and he plays atrocious. There's levels to greatness.
I didn't even say anything about Jalen Hurts, though. That's the crazy.
Preach.
Well,
no one said anything about Jalen Hurts. We get it.
No one said anything about Jalen Hurts. Yeah, but you know how it is. You know how it is, Jaevon. It's got to be 100 degrees of Eagles. I mean, I'm sure Kevin thinking of things from the Eagles fan perspective. It's understandable because that's how I think of things all the time, is from the 49ers fan perspective. Nevertheless, 49ers lost their 3rd game in a row. I think it's the perfect time for the bye week. As Jaevon said, shouldn't have lost that Browns game. Moody's kind of the reason why they lost that one. They kind of just got beat by the Vikings, and the Vikings were playing really well, which is why it's upsetting that Kirk Cousins is now out for the season. And then the Bengals are playing well too. Like Joe Burrow seems to finally be healthy, and he had himself a day against the Niners. Like he threw 19 consecutive pass attempts or 19 consecutive completions in this game, which set a new career high for himself. He finished 28 of 32 for 326 total yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Joe Burrow has 8 touchdowns in his last 3 games. So he's playing very well. And as Kevin mentioned, Kevin mentioned something similar, that in his first 5 games of the season, Brock Purdy had 11 total touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Niners had a 5-0 record. Since they are 0-3, he has 3 total touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That ain't good. So he's got to get it right. And he has the bye week to refocus and readjust. So before we get to the number 1 team in the NFC being the Philadelphia Eagles, we got to talk about the former number 1 team in the AFC, being the Kansas City Chiefs, who are now at 6-2 after losing 24-9 in Denver against the Broncos. This is the first time that the Broncos have defeated the Chiefs in 16 games. It's been 8 seasons. Patrick Mahomes had never lost on the road in the AFC West in his career. He had lost at home to a divisional opponent, but never lost on the road until yesterday, as the Broncos finally break the streak and the Broncos beat the Chiefs 24-9. Kevin, I know that Mahomes had the flu in this game, but it wasn't a Michael Jordan flu game. And so what did you think of this outcome?
Man, I knew once they started listing all the stats at the beginning of the game, it was going to be shaky. But I'll tell you what, when I was going through our picks and I saw that Toddy took the Broncos, I was like, he's on to something. Toddy must know something. There's no way in hell. Like Shaun mentioned, 16-0, 8 seasons of getting your ass whooped twice a year. Patrick Mahomes never lost a road game in the AFC West, 12-0 coming in against the Broncos. And for him to go 24 of 38 with 241 yards and 2 picks, it looked bad. And I've been saying all year how this Chiefs offense runs through Travis Kelce. If you can find a way to take Travis Kelce away, this team is going to look subpar. We saw in the first game when they did not have him in uniform, they lost to the Lions, who's arguably one of the best teams in the NFC. I think the biggest takeaway from this season and last, when you look at the Chiefs, it isn't the people that they lost, because they have the same team besides Juju Smith-Schuster and Mecole Hardman for 4 or 5 games, and he came back. The person that's missing is Eric Bieniemy. He was solely reasonable for this offense. You can say Andy Reid called the plays. You can say he was just, Andy's henchman. But last year, the Chiefs were number 1 in points per game, number 1 in yards per game, and number 1 in yards passing per game. This year, they ranked 12, 19, and 3. This offense has been struggling. It's really been Travis Kelce-centric. We saw a lot of young guys. We saw 5. You can't have 5 turnovers in any game, like Toddy mentioned with the Niners. You turn the ball over 5 times, you're going to lose the game. Mecole Hardman muffing the punt. Sky Moore drops the pass right off his shoulder pads. So the Chiefs just aren't giving Mahomes enough. This offensive line, we've been talking about it since the Super Bowl against the Bucs, has been subpar. You can't have all those orange jerseys in front of his face and expect him to come out and make these plays. We see it night in, night out. Patrick Mahomes make those plays, but it's hard to make those plays every game. So the Chiefs have a lot of things to worry about, and the Broncos haven't been playing that bad, man. It's weird to see Russ be this Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl team leading his team to the Super Bowl, to now seeing him essentially be a game manager, completing 12 passes. Like, it was all just nickel and dime. They were just whatever they can do to not have Patrick Mahomes score was the way they wanted to win this game. We saw Jerry Jeudy finally score a touchdown in 24 games. Cortland Sutton is continuing to have a good season, but this Broncos team, I don't know if this is a pan in the dust, if this is time for them to turn it around, but the way the AFC West looks, they can mess around and get a wild card.
Toddy, what did you think about this game? Was it just because Patrick Mahomes had the flu? Is there more to this?
I think it was kind of the humiliation on Thursday Night Football and how there was like a gap between the game that they played. It was like one game and then they were playing the Broncos again. Turnover battle. Patrick Mahomes had 2 turnovers. I feel like the elements in this game were definitely elementing. And if you guys saw what the field looked like before, like in the morning time at Mile High, before like kickoff happened, it was covered in snow. They had to go over the field like 4 or 5 times, I was hearing. It was, I feel like, and just the altitude in Denver, it's always weird to play in Denver. Divisional opponent, Sean Payton trying to kind of prove himself, not get swept by, the Chiefs. And we get it. Patrick Mahomes was pretty much undefeated against the Broncos his whole career until yesterday. So I think that, everyone, I feel like all good teams lose weird games at some point in time during the season. Like last year, we saw, the Chiefs lost to, who was it, the Colts. The Eagles lost to, who was it, the Commanders. Niners lost to the Bears. So there's always these weird games that really good teams, they end up dropping throughout the season. So I'm not really going to take too much from it. It's not something to panic over. I feel like Patrick Mahomes' health, his illness probably did play a factor into it. But nevertheless, he did throw for like 245 yards still. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really going to dive too much. Is Russ still cooking? Is he back? He threw 3 touchdowns. He was 12 for 14 though, for like 114 yards. So I'm not sure how much cooking he actually did, but saw Jerry Jeudy sighting in this game. A lot of people, including Steve Smith, have had some opinions about Jerry Jeudy and if teams should trade for him or how good of a receiver he actually is. Usually Alabama receivers usually pan out. So for him to kind of get that slow start, maybe it's just him and Russell Wilson really don't have that connection, and he just might need a fresh start. But I'm not really going to dive too much into it. I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the. Actually, no, one of the best teams in the AFC, I would say, because I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC from my perspective. But it's Patrick Mahomes. I'm not really going to think too much of it. If the Broncos played the Chiefs like 5 more times, what did the Chiefs win? Like 4 out of those 5 times, I think.
Probably all 5.
Yeah, I guarantee you they'll be favored in all 5 of those games for sure. So, yeah, not going to dive too much into it. I was kind of shocked that the Chiefs didn't score a touchdown. That was probably the most shocking thing of this whole spiel, that they couldn't score a touchdown. But not too worried about the Chiefs. They'll be in the playoffs, probably be the number 1 seed.
I completely agree. And before we move off of this game, I just wanted to highlight a couple of YouTube comments real quickly. Kevin, your friend Manny says Russ is sizzling. Then he says Russ not cooking, he just prepping. And so I wanted to ask Kevin a very important question before we move on from this game. Meal prep rest, yeah, exactly. But what I wanted to ask is, did the Chiefs lose because Taylor Swift wasn't there, Kevin?
Oh, dude, I'm so tired of that narrative. I'm so tired of that narrative because I know when
man, go ahead.
You can't be wrong. You look at the stats when she's there. Travis Kelce's balling out. So I mean, the numbers don't lie. And it's called stats over politics. So I'd be a fool to come on here and say, her being there doesn't help them. Have some extra motivation to see up there the Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes connection, and then look up there and see your girlfriend and wife have their own handshake. This is the momentum, and a lot of people go to the games to see her, and then you see the narrative if it's Travis Kelce making Taylor Swift more famous or vice versa. But I'm really tired of this narrative because if it was such a big deal, the Eagles had the first Kelce Swift duo. But that's neither here nor there.
And I think Taylor Swift, before all of this, was actually a Philadelphia.
She's from Philly. Fan. I'm sure she's probably still is an Eagles fan, but she has to put on the front. I get it.
Well, I mean, she picked the wrong Kelce. Maybe she chose Kansas City because the other Kelce brother was taken. But had to ask you the very important question, Kevin, because you took the words right out of my mouth. Where they just kept showing that graphic where like Adam Schefter's tweeting about it. Every game, no matter what network it's on, they're showing the graphic. Oh, here's Travis Kelce's stats when she's here. Here's his stats when they're not. I mean, stats over politics. It says it all right there. Anyways, now moving on to the best team in the NFC. That team being the Philadelphia Eagles, who beat the Commanders for the 2nd time this season. Except this time they did not need overtime as the Eagles beat the Commanders 38-31. Kevin, this is your account. The Eagles are now 7-1. They keep on rolling. Easily could be 8-0, if not for a slip up against Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. Nevertheless, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, Kevin, after 8 weeks. So what did you think of their performance against a division rival?
First half, subpar. For us to have 2 fumbles or 1 fumble in the first half in the red zone, and within the 5-yard line, Kenneth Gainwell just dropping the ball. That would have changed the narrative of the first half. But the narrative of the first half is the Commanders came in there and whipped our ass. Sam Howell in that first half for 227 yards, 24 of 26 with 2 touchdowns. He did finish 39 of 52 with 1 pick, so we were able to kind of slow him down. But this defense was answering the call for us when we needed it most. We saw Hassan Reddick come up late, getting the game-winning strip sack which was huge for us because all night we really couldn't get to them. They were getting the ball out quick, like Shaun
First
mentioned,
of the game.
or like Toddy mentioned. Actually, when you play these kind of games, divisional games are always hard. They know you inside and out. They know they're going to play you twice a year, and we just played them a couple weeks ago. So they knew that our D-line was going to come up there and make it hell for Sam Howell. Sam Howell came in as one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. So they know for them to be successful, they have to get the ball out quick. Terry McLaurin went out there and did his thing. It was hard for us to watch because we've now had our 8 different secondary starting lineups. So it's just been a revolving door. Toddy mentioned we bring in Kevin Byard to hopefully help seal up that secondary. Reed Blankenship, I've been saying his name every week of this podcast. He continues to make plays everywhere. He's everywhere on the field. He's either leading us to tackles. He's getting a pick like he was able to. A big sign from this game was our offense. We were not able to run the ball. We've been coming in here week in and week out saying that this Eagles run game was the best in the NFL. We have now dropped to 7th in the NFL, but that's okay because when you have Julio Jones catching touchdowns, DeAndre Swift catching – that caught that touchdown. That was Julio.
Yeah, it sure was.
DeAndre Swift scoring touchdowns. A.J. Brown scoring touchdowns. Devontae Smith coming back. This was Jalen Hurts' second 4-touchdown game in his career. So Jalen Hurts is – they say if you make him run – if you make him throw, you're going to have a chance to win. So for Jalen Hurts to come in here and show his dominance, it was really nice to see as an Eagles fan. But before I pass it on, I just have to formally let it be known to the world, the new owners of the Washington Commanders, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Over 2 games, Jalen Hurts, 679 total yards, 6 touchdowns, 0 picks. A.J. Brown. I know you guys didn't see this. Emmanuel Ford's been benched since that A.J. Brown game. A.J. Brown in 2 games, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, 17 catches. This offense is playing at a high level right now, whether it's the pass and the run. We would like to have more of a dynamic battle or versus the run and the pass. But for us to say, we can't do it, Jalen's going to have to come all on you. Like Kaz mentioned, we saw that he was hurt. We saw the knee brace. But for him to come in there and say, you know what, no matter what this team needs from me, I'm going to come out here day in and day out and give that. A lot of great things to see. The one down thing that I would say came from this game is Jalen Carter with a back injury. He had an MRI today. The results are still unknown, but we're hoping that we can get him back healthy because as the comments have been saying and as everybody in the world knows, it is Dallas week. So we want to be full strength. So the Eagles are playing well right now. Like Shaun mentioned, the number 1 team in the NFC. But we have to figure some things out. So we got some time, and we're just got to get healthy at this point. So once we get healthy and we continue to get this run game back going, we're going to be one of the best teams in the world. And hopefully we're back in Vegas because Kevin got an Airbnb booked.
Shoot, don't want to beg.
Yeah. So as the YouTube comment says, for our audio only listeners, our friend Julian says, "What's up with the fellas and what's up with Kevin? Big week," as he put a little star emoji. As Kevin mentioned, the Eagles and the Cowboys. I accidentally flipped off our background, so we went all black for a second. Nevertheless, Eagles and Cowboys play this week, and joining us next week will be my friend, Mr. Bob Foltz, who is a diehard Cowboys fan, and either Kevin will be getting paid or Bob will be getting paid, and we will hear that transaction live.
Yeah, there is no either, Shaun.
Over politics.
It's the Cowboys we're talking about.
Yeah, well, that is very true, but I mean, Rob has been going he was going nuts yesterday when the Cowboys beat the Rams and then the 49ers ultimately lost. He was like, "Oh, my team is 5-2. Can't relate to a team having 3 losses." And he was taking his victory lap. And I was just like, the thing I said to him is I was like, how does it feel for your team to have lost by 32 points to a team that proceeded to lose 3 games in a row? He's like, "Oh, don't want to hear it. We have 2 losses." Kevin, I look forward to the Eagles handing the Cowboys their 3rd loss this upcoming week.
And it's funny because we've all been teams that beat the Niners, or not the Niners, that beat the Rams, and it's kind of just like, all right, it's cool. The Rams suck. It is what it is. But the Cowboys beat the Rams, and it's, oh my gosh, we saw what they did. And if you really want to talk about it, they sacked Matthew Stafford one time. If he didn't jam his thumb into that dude's helmet, we might be looking at a different ball game. But, credit off to them. They're doing their thing, and they got to come into the link next weekend. So it's got to get ugly.
It's going to be a good one, and I'm really looking forward to it. As now, here on episode number 59 of Stats Over Politics, Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent and Jaevon Toddy. we're going to get into our speedy recap for week 8 in the NFL, not week 7. Let me update the ticker real quickly. But anyways, week 8 in the NFL. Thursday night, Jaevon, we saw the Bills beat the Buccaneers 24-18.
Weird game. Thursday night, Bills coming off of a loss, I believe, to the who they just lose to?
Patriots.
Patriots, yeah. Weird loss to the Pats. Playing on Thursday night, short week. And then the Bucks, they are a team that, Baker Mayfield, that I've been kind of weirdly high on. They were favored by like 10 points in this game. And then the Bucks had a late game backdoor cover. I don't think the game was really close, ultimately. There was a guy, fun fact about this game, who picked this game because he simulated like a Madden game. And based off of that, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Bills to win. And it was a very similar score to kind of like what the actual score was. So yeah, Bills win.
And the Jets defeated the Giants in the Battle of New Jersey, 13-10. I'm going to get into this one. As for our audio-only listeners, Kevin will be back in just a moment, as he had to take out the birthday boy Blue to let him relieve himself. So Kevin will be back very soon. And I wanted to talk about this Jets 13-10 win in overtime against the Giants. As the thing that was really interesting about this one, Jaevon, is it seemed like the Giants were going to win it late. And then Graham Gano shanked a field goal, loses it, goes to overtime, Jets win. But I don't know if you did you bet on the Giants or
no, I'm just your kicker not being able to make field goals. I felt that.
Yeah, that's very relatable, a kicker not being able to make a field goal. But so that happened in this game. But the thing that I thought was really interesting about it, Jaevon, is that the Giants had fewer total passing yards, with 7 passing yards against the Jets yesterday. And Julius Randle on Saturday night had 8 turnovers for the Knicks. So Julius Randle had more turnovers for the Knicks than the Giants had passing yards against the Jets. That basically sums up this 13-10 win for the Jets. But hey, good on the Jets. Good on Bob Saleh. They continue to win. I think they're at 5-3 now. And so congrats to Robert Saleh, or 4-3, excuse me. But still, they're keeping their head above water. So good for the Jets as they win.
Or they almost
almost set the punt record. Yes, exactly. That is another great stat to basically summarize how this game went. So as Kevin now rejoins us, the other battle that happened involving AFC East teams was the Dolphins defeating the Patriots 31-17.
The Dolphins are cooking, man. We saw them. This was a real big game for them, bouncing back after this Eagle loss. We really saw them be one-dimensional, essentially. We saw that their left guard went down. You've seen Jalen Waddle go down. So just to see this team come back out there and get healthy, really, and not even get healthy, they got Jalen Ramsey back. I know there was this big debacle all morning if he got to play. Adam Schefter said he was going to play. He said it was cap. 20 minutes later, he posted his little warm-up or his summer workout video for him in his rehab. So he wanted to announce it. So Adam Schefter just ruined the video. But this defense is looking scary now that they have him back. Xavier Howard's getting back. You have Bradley Chubb coming off the rush. This team is going to be phenomenal. They're getting Devin Etienne back in a couple of weeks. So this team just has to continue to get healthy, and this team can roll. And, I have to speak up here for Garry, man. Tyreek Hill, best receiver in the NFL, man. For him to have 1,000 yards through week 8. 8 weeks for 1,000 yards. There are people, Brandon Ayuk, who barely scraped 1,000 yards playing a full season. One missed tackle.
I knew you were going to say
and
that.
That's 999 yards. That one missed tackle changes. That's a payday. That's one missed tackle changes the whole career of someone's payday. So going on, regardless about the Dolphins, the Patriots, man, the Patriots are the Patriots. I hate to see Bill Belichick go out like this. He's chasing this record, but like we talked about on past podcasts, he might have to chase that record in a different jersey.
All right, that was the next question that I had for you, was whether or not the Patriots would actually fire him. I don't think that they would, but it could be possible. And Kevin, I wanted to toss this one right back to you because this next game, I need you to speak for Garry again, but this game gets back to the little rivalry that you and Garry had in our first NFL season of Stats Over Politics as the Jaguars, Ducky P's Jaguars, beat the Steelers 20-10, Kevin.
Ducky P. Trevor Lawrence on games on the road this year. 1,052 yards, 5 touchdowns to 1 pick. Versus the Steelers, he went out there on the road. Is it still called Heinz Stadium?
No, it's called like Aperture, not Aperture, because that's like what you have when you're taking photos. It's called something.
Okay, so no longer Heinz Field. So going into Pittsburgh and for them to go 24 of 32, 292 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I stamped this man last week because I was a sleeper. Travis Etienne is a workhorse. There aren't really many workhorse running backs in the NFL that I couldn't even really think of when I was putting my notes together. But for him to run for 24 times for 79 yards, 3 catches for 70 yards, 23 yards per catch. And all offseason, they talked about Calvin Ridley being that A.J. Brown, that Stephon Diggs. And this was one of the games that they traded for him for. This was the reason for him to go out there, 6 catches, 83 yards, 14 yards per catch. And this offense has more than just those 2 weapons. Evan Ingram has continuously been a sleeper for a top 5, 10 tight end in the NFL. 10 catches for 88 yards, 9 yards per catch. And then Christian Kirk being the perfect 1B to Calvin Ridley with 4 catches for 46 yards and 11.5 per catch. This team is flying, and they're playing well at a great time. And the AFC has some holes in it, and they're one of the top teams in there. So could they contend for the 1 seed? Well, we only time will tell. But the Steelers, Mitchell Trubisky sighting. I know none of us thought we were going to see that on Sunday. 15 of 27, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. This run game has been abysmal. For all of you Najee Harris fantasy owners like me out there, I'm sorry. Last week he got a touchdown. You thought he was going to do something, so you started him in your lineup. 7 rushes for 13 yards, 2 yards per carry. Jaylen Warren, 5 carries for 19 yards, 4 yards per carry. The only bright spot in this offense has been the return of Deontay Johnson, who's been making play after play after play. But this team has a lot of holes in it, and this, as good as we want to say Mike Tomlin is, I don't know if he's going to be able to get them past that 500 mark because they're just struggling. It starts with the quarterback play.
I completely agree. Thank you very much. Unfortunate for Kenny Pickett to get hurt in this game, but Steelers quarterback being inadequate. I completely agree. Toddy, did you have something you wanted to say about that, or just letting out a little noise?
Had the Steelers on the par.
It
goes down. I was so like devastated for Kenny Pickett to go down. Usually people would be like, "Oh my God, our backup's coming in," and guess who the backup is? Mitchell freaking Trubisky. All hope went out the window after that. So it's weird because Kenny Pickett plays like this game where he doesn't show up until the 4th quarter and then just starts throwing dots to Deontay Johnson and Kenny Pickett, or George Pickens, that is. And the Steelers usually always somehow TJ Watt's in some sort of turnover, whether that's getting an interception, forcing a fumble, creating a sack fumble on the quarterback. Like, he's always into something. Who's probably the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. And then for Pickett to kind of go out early in the game, and now it's all roads lead back to Mitch Trubisky. So there was no hope after that. I kind of turned the game off after that, and just, it's over. You're dead. So shout out to the
yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. And to follow up on what the stadium name is, I was pretty close. It's called Acrisure. Heinz Field is better. But anyways, I guess that's what it's called. Anyways, Toddy, tossing it back to you. The Titans, Evans team, they beat the Falcons 28-23.
How about Will Levis?
The Mayo Man.
The Mayo
Mayonnaise
Man.
in the coffee man.
You gotta give him some love, man. I mean, this is a guy whose girlfriend broke up with him. I don't know if it was after the draft, during the draft, or whenever that was.
It's because he wasn't a first rounder, and she hated sitting there.
He didn't go first round, and so now it's kind of just like, okay, is he ever going to play? I saw him a little bit in preseason, but me and how deceiving the preseason is, and that led me to picking Jordan Love and the Packers win division. That's another story for another day.
Hey,
but
man, it
I
had me
thought,
picking the Steelers to make it playoffs.
but
Preseason is a
So
bitch.
you guys already jumping away from those takes? You're done with the Packers now, Toddy?
I'm out of there. I'm out.
I was done
All
with
right.
the Steelers in week 1
Gotta,
after the
gotta-
JV
Ha
performance.
ha!
gotta get away. So, I just think that we'll let the DeAndre Hopkins. He had 3 touchdowns. I mean, people are saying, "Oh, DeAndre Hopkins is washed. He can't do this, that, and the third." Kevin is probably saying he's not. Kevin was saying before the season he's not a top 10 wide receiver.
Yeah, that was when we were doing the Devontae versus DeAndre discussion.
It was kind of just like, okay, he's invisible out there because Ryan Tannehill's the quarterback. He doesn't have anybody that can throw the ball down the field. And then this kid with the huge arm out of Kentucky starts slinging it down the field. I mean, this offense could look like something. You got Derrick Henry back there running the rock. I mean, are we sprinkling Titans money line? I don't know. Maybe we might put them on line. Or is this the clock's going to strike midnight Thursday night, the bright lights, everybody's watching. It's really just Tennessee. Or is this, it's relaxed, buddy. It's the Falcons. You can't really put too much stock in it. It's the Falcons. This is a real quarterback. I think the Falcons defense is better than what most people like to give them credit for. But at the same time, I mean, when the last time you seen a rookie quarterback come in first start throw 4 touchdowns? I mean, it's promising. I think there's going to be some quarterback controversy in Tennessee now. From when Ryan Tannehill comes back and is healthy, do you kind of just rock with the kid? I would. I mean, what other better option do you have right now? So, shout out to Will Levis. I thought about putting them on the parlay, but I didn't. I was just a little too hesitant. Didn't really know too much. But yeah, shout out to the Titans for getting the win.
Kevin, your Carolina Panthers got their first win of the season as they beat the Texans 15-13.
So the battle of number 1 pick versus number 2 pick. If everyone's been watching the podcast and knew who I was rocking with, when I saw this on the schedule, I said this was the game. The Panthers were going to regret not taking C.J. Stroud, and I was completely mistaken. This was a defensive battle. One of the biggest standpoints that I took away from this game was C.J. Stroud just needs a number 1 guy. Even the Panthers have Adam Thielen for Bryce Young, and we're seeing Bryce Young become better and better and better now that they have established Adam Thielen being that number 1 guy. We've heard them being in the trade market for yet another number 1 type receiver. If the Texans can come in here and get a consistent guy that no matter what he can throw it to, we're seeing that he's having he's getting a lot of guys involved because they just don't have a lot of options. We saw Nico Collins really to start the season about be doing very, very well. Same with Tank Dell, and ever since then, it's kind of been a roller coaster ride. D'Amico Ryan gets this team up, ready to play every week, so they're going to be in it every game. But for them to come down and lose to the Panthers was really a slap in the face to all the Texans believers, because I had them saying that they could possibly win the division. They could do A, B, C, and D. And for you to go out there and lose to a team that's in contention for a top pick, really, doesn't set them back. But everyone now says, well, they're the Texans. So we all knew this was coming at some point. But the biggest thing I took away from the Panthers' perspective is Chuba Hubbard has beat out Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders has essentially done nothing. I was talking to Alyssa about it. It's a big difference when you go behind Philadelphia's offensive line and then you go to the Panthers. It's night and day. And it's being shown that Miles Sanders' production, has first 1,000-yard season, and now probably might not even crack 500. So it's definitely sad to see Miles Sanders go down. I have an Eagles jersey for Miles Sanders sitting in my closet, so it's always going to be love. But the Panthers, it might be the place where careers go to die.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I picked up Miles Sanders in our Stats Over Politics Fantasy Football League. Thought it was going to be a good pickup.
Dropped him.
Yeah. Well, I picked him up thinking that he'd be a good pickup after I lost Nick Chubb and J.K. Dobbins to season-ending injuries, and I'm desperate for running backs. But as Kevin said, Chuba has taken over the lead running back spot in Carolina. So, Jaevon, the Cowboys, they beat the Rams 43-20 in L.A.
This was another classic. Oh, the Cowboys, they're back. We're winning the Super Bowl game. If you look at the game, they got a blocked punt. They got, pick sixes coming back. Now, let's give credit to Dak. He was the connection with CeeDee Lamb is starting to pick up a little bit. I think CeeDee Lamb had 2 touchdowns this game. Dak threw for 304 yards. Played outstanding in this game, but it's the Rams, 3-5 Rams. Matthew Stafford did get hurt in this game, so how healthy were they? The Rams are very limited on defense. Besides Aaron Donald, I bet you guys can't name 2 guys on this Rams defense. But I mean, it's it kind of was just like, okay, where are the Rams sellers at the trade deadline and kind of just punt on the season? You got some viable assets. You got Cooper Kupp. You trade Aaron Donald. Do you trade him, get some picks back, and just say, fuck it? We had that good run, got a Super Bowl. Maybe fuck those picks. Maybe it's not fuck them picks anymore. So,
if you get a ring out of it, it was a success.
Exactly. I would consider it worth it. I'd take it.
So 3 years of being bad versus 1 Super Bowl ring. Fuck it.
Yeah, so I feel like now they're in that weird space. Like, do we start making calls a little bit? Trade deadline's tomorrow, like I said. So yeah, the Cowboys, they're feeling good going into the Link on Sunday Night Football. They feel like they're on top of the world. They feel like they can beat anybody, and I feel like that's probably where the Eagles we got them right where they want them, right? So
yeah, that's what the Cowboys think. But anyways, Kevin, the Vikings, they defeated Jaevon's Packers 24-10. But the thing that is sad about this is that Kirk Cousins is out for the season. I believe it was a torn ACL or Achilles. It was Achilles. Okay, so torn Achilles for Kirk Cousins, and he's out for the rest of the season, which is really unfortunate. But the Vikings win 24-10.
So, the Vikings are, in an unfortunate position now that Kirk Cousins is gone, but they're also in a position to where they can contend for the playoffs. They're 4-4. You lose your quarterback for the year. You lose Justin Jefferson for another at least 3 weeks. We've heard them shopping Daniel Hunter, all their other kind of guys. What do they do now? Do they kind of stand still and say, let's compete? Do they tank? So there's a lot of options. Like we mentioned, the trade deadline's coming up. So are they going to trade for a guy like Trey Lance, a Minnesota guy, and let him go out there and sling the ball, see what he can do. They're going to have to bring somebody in because I couldn't even tell you who the backup was, but he went in there and I hate to say this, but the Packers are just the Packers. They have a really great defense, but this is the youngest offense in the NFL, and it shows night in and night out. Jordan Love, we talked about a roller coaster ride with the Steelers and the Texans. They have one of their own. It is a roller coaster ride. Jordan Love, you can't go out there and say he's a rookie because he's not a rookie. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 4 seasons. You saw the man win 2 MVPs, go to 2 NFC Championship games, if I'm not mistaken. So you've seen the success. You've seen the blueprint. So now you just have to go out there and apply it. But this is one of the youngest teams in the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of they're shoppers at the market because what are you playing for? You're gonna have to end up paying Jordan Love if he's the guy. Aaron Jones is getting up there in age. They have this amazing defense. So do they go all in and try to become buyers and bring in talent, or are they going to be sellers and just say, you know what, let's take our losses. We got our first round pick back from the Aaron Rodgers trade because he didn't play 75% of the snaps. So let's just sit back and let's bring in some more talent for Jordan Love and only add more young guys to the youngest offense in the NFL. So the Packers, Tidy's Packers, are, in shambles right now, but they're going to have to figure it out because their division is not getting any easier.
Do you think the Packers need to move on from Jordan Love already, like Manny thinks?
Not if it's pick 14, 15. You only move on from Jordan Love if it's Tidy's guy, Caleb Williams, Drake May, because you just got to go back right there to the same cycle you're going through now. This guy knows the system. He knows the OC. Everyone in the locker room already believes in him, so you don't have to go through the rookie pains. So if they're just going to continue to be bad, just continue bringing more talent around him. I don't think it's time to give up on him yet because, like I mentioned, it's only been 1 season. Aaron Rodgers wasn't that great in his first season. I'm not saying by any means is he going to be Aaron Rodgers, but this franchise has had decades of great quarterback play. So they picked him for a reason. So I think they stick with him, but I wouldn't be surprised also if they were able to get, like I mentioned, a Caleb Williams or a Drake May.
Toddy, another one of your NFC teams, because not because you picked this team to win their division, because all of us did, but because you picked this team to go to the NFC champion, or excuse me, Kevin, you picked the Panthers, so you didn't actually pick this team. But this team, Toddy picked to make it to the NFC championship game. That team being the New Orleans Saints that won 38-27 against the Colts.
Before you go, Toddy, Jalen Johnson, Bears corner, just requested a trade.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
saw that. Team, we were interested in him, so we'll see. That's a thing they're starting to shake up. As far as the Saints go, I got off the Saints, even though I texted the group chat and I said, guys, hear me out. Saints -2. Nobody said anything. So I was just, very moved by how when I just choose not to bet against them or bet on them, they decide to shake up the world. And they ended up covering the spread too. So I think Derek Carr threw for like 300-some yards. We saw Alvin Kamara, who I think is a very underrated back. One of my favorite running back in the league. I think he's one of the top running backs in the league, period. He's starting to show out. And I feel like pretty much what I thought the Saints should look like, they looked like on Sunday. Just being able to spread the ball around. If Derek Carr can, play up to standards and, not play like shit, this offense should be very, very good. I mean, I feel like they have the pieces. Their defense is really good. Why not, right? So I just think if the Saints, play at a high level now, they did play the Colts, who are playing a backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew. I guess the clock struck midnight on him, after the couple of games that he won. So, Saints win. And I picked them to win in my picks, but I didn't bet on them because I was just like, I can't bet on this team right now.
Well, the next game that I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about this myself, is the Seahawks. They beat the Browns 24-20. Congratulations to the Seahawks accomplishing something that the 49ers couldn't do this season. Granted, it was on their home field. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this game is because at 5-2, the Seattle Seahawks are now in first place in the NFC West. And I wore this shirt specifically, and this is why you need to tune in on YouTube, Twitch, or X, because Manny, I see you in the YouTube comments, so I know you're tuning in live right now. This shirt says the West is not enough. Division champions. This shirt was from the 100th NFL season in 2021. Also, let me correct myself from earlier. The 49ers started 3-5 in 2021, 3-4 in 2022. So I was thinking about the Rams game from a couple years ago. Nevertheless, this shirt is from 2021 when the 49ers won the division. Let's not forget that they won the division again in 2022. And they're going to win the division again in 2023. Sorry, Manny. I know you got your hopes up. You're saying 12, baby, in the YouTube comments. Enjoy being a half game up in the standings on the 49ers, because by the time the season ends, the 49ers are going to be division champions once again. And Manny says, for the YouTube audience, y'all about to F around and find out? I cannot wait for that game because, Toddy, remind me, 49ers played the Seahawks 3 times last season, right? And did the Seahawks win a game at all last season?
Last time I checked, 9 for 3 on the Seahawks last year. Last time
baby.
So they found out, and they're going to find out again this year. They just have to be humbled by Big Brother and Santa Clara every year. They had us 10 years ago, but Richard Sherman ain't walking through that door. Marshawn Lynch ain't walking through that door. Caleb Williams, oof. Anyways, I want to talk about that game because congrats, Seattle fans. Enjoy being a half game up on the 49ers for now. Enjoy leading the NFC West because, Kevin, do you know what the NFL stands for?
No Fun League.
That is very true. It also stands for not for long. So, Seattle, enjoy your first place standing in the NFC West because it's not going to be there for long. Jaevon, the Ravens, they beat the Cardinals 31-24.
I thought just Lamar, they were down 7-0 early, and I was never really worried about it. I just think this Ravens team, they're rolling right now. I think they're the best team in the AFC. I think Lamar Jackson is on an MVP candidate run right now again. for a second in his career. I think once they figure out a way to get Odell Beckham Jr. the ball, I feel like this offense is going to unlock another layer and just achieve new heights because they're already when they get Mark Andrews the ball, good things happen. He's scoring touchdowns left and right now. Probably want to put him on a player prop as of right now if you want to make a little bit of money on who Lamar's going to throw the ball to as far as touchdowns go. But I think that, this Cardinals team, they benched Josh Dobbs, and I'm just like, well, what are they doing now? And what direction are they actually going? They're trying to, you're hearing Kyler coming off IR and practicing with the team. He's a full participant in the practice. His window's open, 3-week window. This is the second week that he's practicing but hasn't played. So wondering when I think even next week they announced that he's not going to play. So probably after next week is he going to be ready to go. But what are they going to be like? What, 1-6, 1-7?
He's not coming back.
So I don't know, man. We'll see where or when he's going to play. But this Cardinal team is feisty, but they weren't really a match for the Rams, or not the Rams, the Ravens at any point in time in this game.
Kevin, in an ugly Sunday night football game, the Chargers handled the Bears 30-13.
So I'm not gonna lie to you, fellas. Didn't tune into 1 second of this game.
Neither did I.
I was down in all my fantasy games. I knew Devontae Foreman, DJ Moore, Austin Eckler, and Cole Kmet were not going to win me any games. So I didn't tune in, but Austin Eckler had a hell of a game, so it's nice to see him kind of have his resurgence. The Bears are the Bears, man. We saw last week, the Division II quarterback went out there and did his thing and led them to a victory against the Raiders. But like we just mentioned, talking about earlier, the Raiders are the Raiders. So you take that with a grain of salt. So to see this team come out here and play this way, from the Chargers perspective, you can't really know if you want to give them too much credit because 2 weeks ago we were talking about, are they wasting Justin Herbert's career? So I'm not going to get too excited over them beating the Bears because the Bears, like I mentioned, are another team that are contending for the 1 and 2 overall picks. So they have no chance in winning. So I'm just hoping that Justin Fields gets to come back and we get to see, because he was playing really well before he left. I know, like Toddy mentioned, for some reason on this podcast, once we come out here and say we are officially off the bandwagon, the next week they play great. Justin Fields has been playing great. Toddy's Saints have now played great. Now they don't have the worry of Kevin and Toddy over their shoulder. They just play with so much stress-free football, and they're going out there doing their thing. So, hands off to the Chargers for beating the Bears, but it's the Bears. So we'll take it with a grain of salt.
That stats over politics pressure is real. But, like you said, at the end of the day, it's the Bears. So, Toddy, the last game from the NFL in Week 8 was the game we just finished seeing about an hour ago on Monday Night Football, as the Lions beat the Raiders 26-14. And Devontae Adams looks like he's a prisoner in silver and black.
Yeah, just Jimmy Garoppolo, he's pointing out there. He keeps pointing to, whatever he's pointing at, it's not working. So I just think, Devontae Adams didn't sign up for this. It kind of just all happened. He went to go play with his boy Derek Carr, and then all of a sudden, Derek Carr gets traded. He gets benched. And then I think he gets cut, right? He didn't get traded. He got cut by the Raiders. And then all of a sudden, it's the Jimmy Garoppolo effect. You're hearing, things about him in camp. You're kind of like hearing weird things about him. And, Josh Jacobs, you're not really seeing what he was last year. And, he sat out the majority of the year. So it's very frustrating. From a Devontae Adams perspective, because this is a guy that can get open at will, and he's pretty much open on any play, you could probably argue. And then, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he threw for under 100 yards. I could be wrong. The last time I checked, it was he was at like 62 yards for the whole entire game. I thought this was the Jahmyr Gibbs game. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues. A lot of fantasy owners are very Jahmyr Gibbs fantasy owners are very frustrated from his carries and him not really getting the ball a lot and him not really being used right. And, for him to come out and rush for over 100, I think 50 yards, having a touchdown, And then also being able to catch the ball at the backfield is the reason why he was drafted so high at 12. So, like I said earlier, the Lions are kind of showing you, hey, by the record say we have the second best record in the NFC, and we're probably one of the best teams in the NFL. That's record wise. So, congrats to the Lions. I mean, the Lions are rolling right now. At least they bounced back after that tough loss against the Ravens. So, shout out to the Lions.
All right, Toddy. Well, now it's time for you to hand out some free money because we want to hear Vonny's hotline. So update the people on how you did last week, where you're standing overall, and then let's hear your picks for this next week and all the free money you're going to be handing out.
I'm actually unaware of what my record was last week. I think I went 4-5.
So I know that I missed last week, but after
it was a
7
weird
weeks
last week because I had a whole bunch of basketball and stuff on there, so I'm gonna have to go back.
So just so you know, when you go back after 7 weeks, I had you at 13-15, and so I think you now have the last 2 weeks to catch up on. We'll circle back so then we can know what Vonny's overall record is. But let's hear. Yeah, well, exactly. We will circle the wagons. And so as someone figures out their car alarm, thank you to them. Anyways, let's hear about Vonny's hotline for this week. What do you got cooking?
Very, very interesting week. But we are gonna circle back to I think it was a week ago, to when we had Philadelphia Eagles on the hotline. 4-0 week. We gotta go back to the well. Eagles are -3 at home at the Link against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Waiting all day for Sunday night. So I know the Eagles are green, but the only color that we see is green, and that's muddy over here. So we like winning over here. And the Eagles do that. So we're going to go with the Eagles on Sunday Night Football at -3. Another game that I was kind of interested in is there's a couple of good games on here. I like the Ravens. Let's go Ravens -5.5 over Seattle. I just think that the Ravens are rolling, man. They're winning by more than 2 scores. More than 2 scores in most of their last 2 games. So they're just a tough team to beat right now, and I feel like that they're going to be a tough out on Sunday. So we're gonna fast forward in the future, or rewind into the future, because we went Sunday first. But Saturday there's also some really, really good college football games. One of those games include the LSU Tigers going on over to Tuscaloosa. It's going to be a very, very tough game. Last year, we remember that the game went into overtime, and the Tigers ended up winning in overtime. And man, it's just so tough to pick against Nick Saban, man. I don't know what you guys do, but betting against Nick Saban is not something I would advise at all. But it's going to be so we're going to go with Alabama -3 here over LSU at home, and we're not going to look back. We're not going to look back at all. I trust in Nick Saban, and I think Jalen Milroe, his downfield passing has been one of the top in the entire country according to PFF. But he's been a guy that's kind of been getting picked on of his accuracy and how well he actually can be with throwing the ball downfield. But he's been actually playing fairly well. We're gonna rock with Milroe and the Crimson Tide on Saturday night. So the next game I'm probably gonna bet on Saturday is we're going to go Kentucky over Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State is god-awful organization, piss-poor organization, that I like to say on this show. I think Kentucky, they're going to bounce back off of a tough loss at home from Tennessee. And I think Devin Leary is going to be able to find Barryon Brown in the end zone. And I think that Ray Davis kind of gets going in the run game. I don't think they really got him going this past game against Tennessee, and that was probably the key focus of the game. So we're going to rock with Kentucky here. Kentucky money line at -170 over Mississippi State. Now, due to the fact that we do have basketball games going on now, I'm going to start adding a little bit of hoops on the old hotline. So we're going to start adding more games on there. Right now, I can't. And when college starts, it's gonna get even crazier. So we're gonna start adding college basketball games on there. And I'm gonna have a whole bunch of degenerates betting on college basketball with me. So tomorrow we're just gonna do straight picks here. Tomorrow we got the Suns at the Spurs. I'm probably gonna rock with the Suns here. Suns will probably be a -240 favorite. We'll just probably take the Suns on the money line here. I don't think Beal or Booker is going to be playing, but I still think they'll be good enough to beat the Spurs at home tomorrow. And then the second game that I'm probably going to add, I'm going to rock with the Clippers here. Clippers over the Magic. Magic are playing right now against the Lakers. It's probably a game that Kev keeps looking at in the background.
Yes, sir.
You know the score of that game, by the way, if you want to give it to me?
I want to say it's 98-95 Magic.
Okay.
I can fact check that for you.
But I think the Clippers probably. I'll take the Magic on the spread. I think the Magic
196 Magic.
196 Magic got you. I'll take the Magic on the spread here. They're +7. I think Banchero and those guys have been playing pretty well. Franz Wagner have been playing pretty well. So I'll take the Magic in the spread here. They'll probably lose, but I don't think they lose by more than 7 points. So recap, we have the Ravens -5.5 on Sunday. And then I'm taking the Eagles -3 on Sunday Night Football. And then we have Alabama -3 on Saturday night against LSU. And then also have the Kentucky Wildcats over the Mississippi State Bulldogs at -170. And then we have the Suns money line tomorrow night. Don't know what that line isn't out yet, but it's probably going to be like -240, -230-ish. That's probably what I'm guessing. And then we're going to take the Magic +7 against the Clippers tomorrow night. So got a 6-game lineup, and it's going to be
money.
So it's going to get very interesting.
Yeah, and please do circle back, total up that record so the audience can just hear how well you've been doing, because
yes,
Kevin and I, we ain't bullshitting. Like, Toddy's handing out free money. He's hitting on like at least half of his picks. And so if you just do single bets and you don't put it all on a parlay, because if he has a 5 in 1 week,
your own risk, guys. Parlay at your own risk.
Yeah, parlay at your own risk, because he could have a 5 in 1 week. But if you got the one wrong pick all on the same parlay, then that's going to tank the whole ship. When you could make 6 individual bets, win 5 individual bets, and then you lose 1, but you can't get everything right.
Can't win them all.
Toddy's handing out free. Yeah, exactly. Can't win them all. The 49ers know that very well, and Toddy, he is handing out free money. So we'll find out the overall record next week on episode number 61 of Stats Over Politics. I say 61 as we're here on episode 59 because if you missed it, we now have NBA episodes every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Took last week off. The Kings game was going on ESPN. And so we'll be back again this Friday for our NBA episode of Stats Over Politics, and then back again next Monday for the NFL. But before we go, here on episode number 59 of Stats Over Politics, Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent and Jaevon Toddy. Garry Singh is out sick this week, but hopefully he'll be back on either Friday or Monday. Before we go, Kevin, it's time for your favorite segment, being Fact or Cap.
Jeez, 59 episodes, fellas. Where does time go? 59 episodes. It's still crazy to see. So, Shaun, I'm going to bring it to you first. Fact or Cap? Ryan Tannehill has played his final game for the Titans.
I'm going to probably go with Cap on this one. I think that Will Levis, the mayonnaise and the coffee man, will regress a little bit, and then the Titans will think, okay, do we have a shot at winning the AFC South? Do we put the veteran back in there? However, DeAndre Hopkins seems like he will now be an advocate for Will Levis. And so if Levis can keep up the level of play that we saw from him against the Falcons, because as Toddy talked about earlier, it was the Falcons, so I'm not sold. And so for not being sold on a one-game sample size, I'm going to say this is Cap, but it's highly possible, and I could be wrong.
All right, Toddy, I'm going to bring it to you next. You mentioned some quarterback controversy possibly in Tennessee, so fact or Cap? Ryan Tannehill has played his last game for the Titans.
I think it's very it's tricky. It's very tricky. You have a rookie quarterback who showed his ass on Sunday, throwing for 4 touchdowns, over almost 300 yards. It's gonna get ugly, man. If this guy wins on Thursday Night Football, I think that it's gonna get dicey. And he's thrown for the same amount of touchdowns as Ryan Tannehill all season, pretty much. And it's kind of just like, okay, well, if he just came in and we're 8 games into the season and he's got the same amount of touchdowns, I don't know how Ryan Tannehill comes back. And if Will Levis duplicates what he did on Thursday night, if they win and he throws for, let's just say he throws for like 250, he throws for 1 touchdown but no turnovers, I think that's good enough for him to keep the job. So I'm gonna say fact. I think Will Levis is gonna start the rest of the year, and I'm pretty sure that Evan is rooting for Will Levis, and most Titan fans are probably rooting for Will Levis to do good on Thursday Night Football, because they've seen what Ryan Tannehill is, and that ship has sailed. And I think that sky's the limit for this kid and Will Levis, the Mayo Man.
The Mayo Man. Fact or Cap? Ryan Tannehill has played his final game for the Titans. I'm going to say fact. And the reason I'm going to say fact is because coming into this draft process, I told Toddy, and he laughed in my face. I said, Will Levis, he got to be top 3, top 4. And he laughed at me. He said, who's Will Levis, Kevin? Who's Will Levis, Kevin? I said, Toddy, do your homework. Will Levis, he can go. He can go. For him to go out there and go over 238 yards and 4 touchdowns, like Toddy mentioned, Ryan Tannehill has only thrown for 2 touchdowns all season. So for him to do that, Will Levis, to do that in his first half, to go out there and throw 2 touchdowns, just shows how much his impact is to this offense. We saw Derrick Henry get going, 22 attempts for 101 yards, 4.6 yards per run. This run gets more serious when they're able to have a legitimate passing game. We've seen versus the Saints when the Titans just Ryan Tannehill just throwing the game away. We've seen over and over and over that Ryan Tannehill, has been holding this team back. So for them to get fresh blood in there, for him to see it, you have to see it, you have to visualize it. It's one thing to see it in camp and in practice, but for him to go out there on national television and do it, and to have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins doesn't make things a lot harder. So I'm going to have to say fact. And then also I'm going to say fact because Ryan Tannehill could be traded. We saw Kirk Cousins go down. We now are hearing the Desmond Ridder, Tyler Heineke debate. So why not just get your losses off and lose him for something? Go ahead and trade him for a 3rd, 4th. He's a veteran quarterback. He's been through an AFC Championship game. We've seen the highs and lows throughout Ryan Tannehill's career. So I wouldn't say he's washed up just yet, but his time in Tennessee might be up, unfortunately. So Toddy, I'm going to bring it to you next. I told you guys to come prepared with your top 3 NFL MVP. So, Toddy, I'm going to take it to you first. Fact or Cap? The NFL MVP will not be given to a quarterback for the first time since 2012.
That's very, very tough. I think it's, man, It's when was the last time the guy that won MVP was not a quarterback? It's
2012.
2012.
2012. Who was that? Who won in 2012?
Adrian Peterson.
That's right. AP all day won it. I don't know, man. I'm gonna say Cap. I think what I would do is my top three. I think it's Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill is probably in there. Bro, AJ Brown has been on an entirely different universe. I swear to God, like if Tyreek Hill isn't having the historic season that he's having right now, AJ Brown would probably be like the best receiver in the league. I think he's been playing otherworldly. It's insane. So my top three MVP race is probably Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes. Honorable mention AJ Brown and Christian McCaffrey. So a lot of guys that don't play quarterback are in my MVP race right now.
All right, Shaun, I'll bring it to you next. Factor Cap. The NFL MVP will not be a quarterback for the first time since 2012.
It's a fact. I'm not going to overreact to what I just saw in the last 4 weeks, because if we take it back 4 weeks ago, after week 4, when the 49ers were 4-0 and Christian McCaffrey had like 11 touchdowns through 4 games and was doing things that only Jim Brown and Barry Sanders have done. Yeah, the 49ers are 1-3 in their last 4 games, but Christian McCaffrey has continued to score a touchdown, at least one, in every single game. And so if the 49ers can get right after the bye week, let's say they go 7-1, and I'm being optimistic, but if they go 7-1 after the bye week, finish the season around 12-4, 12 or 13-4, 12-5, somewhere around there. If Christian McCaffrey continues putting up those stats, I think he has a great case to be the NFL MVP. And Jaevon mentioned another great name, Garry's guy, Tyreek Hill. He is really asserting himself. As you mentioned earlier, Kevin, 1,000 yards through 8 games. Not even Brandon Ayuk could do that. So he's putting himself up there. And so to me, I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say it's a fact. For once, we finally have an NFL MVP that's not a quarterback for the first time in over 10 years. If it doesn't happen this year between the two guys I just mentioned, then it might be time to just change the award to best quarterback, and then offensive player of the year could continue to go to the best skilled position player. So long explanation, but I'm going to say it's a fact.
Factor Cap. The NFL will be a non-quarterback for the first time since 2012. And Shaun, I'm all in. I'm going to say fact, because before, like Shaun mentioned, before week 4, the top 2 candidates were non-quarterbacks, and Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey. Like we've been mentioning, all podcasts, all offseason, Tyreek Hill is coming in and dominating it. He's on pace for 2,000 yards. If you have a receiver with 2,000 yards and they're not one, the top 2 in the category for MVP, what are we really looking at? Like, I get everything is a dependable position, and at the end of the day, the quarterback is the most valuable, because if you don't have a quarterback, you can't throw the ball. But if you don't have any receivers, your quarterback can't throw the ball. So they go hand in hand. But like Toddy mentioned, Mr. AJ Brown, top 3 in the league, and he's not number 3. And on any other Sunday, he might be number 1. 939 yards, 5 touchdowns, 18 yards per catch. Just set the NFL record for 6+ games with 125 yards receiving plus. AJ Brown is playing on a phenomenal level, and if it wasn't for Tyreek Hill, like Toddy mentioned, I'd be coming on this podcast screaming from the hill saying AJ Brown is the best receiver in the NFL. There's just so much talent. CMC can come back and make a late push for it. So I definitely wouldn't want to put it past them. I'm all in for, maybe a defensive player winning it. But if it's not A.J. Brown or Tyreek Hill, I think it's going to be a quarterback. But I'm going to go all in and say that these receivers could be on pace for 2,000 yards. And if we have 2,000-yard receivers, can you really give it to a quarterback?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And the answer would be no, or at least I hope not, because if they do, like I said, just change the awards. Like, you can have your best quarterback, and then offensive player of the year could go to the best skill position player. Because if, like you said, if you have a running back and a wide receiver, each who accomplish those statistics, even in a 17-game season. I just don't like, unless a quarterback just lights the world on fire and through the rest of the season, then I don't see how it couldn't happen. But, another player that Jaevon mentioned was Lamar Jackson, former MVP, former unanimous MVP, and he could be building a case for himself right now as well. And for years, ignorant people called Lamar Jackson a running back. So maybe if Lamar Jackson wins the NFL MVP again, it could be a little asterisk that no, a quarterback did win it again, but Lamar Jackson is a playmaker. So anyways, that is going to do it for episode number 59 of Stats Over Politics. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us a lot. And if you enjoy the show, then hit like and subscribe. As Kevin, I'm sorry I disappointed you. I didn't get the intro music. Everyone, talk at Stats Over Politics and on X at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying the show, give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it, as you've been tuned in to episode number 59, Stats Over Politics. For Jaevon, Toddy, Kevin Dent, and our guy, Garry Singh, I'm Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on Friday for NBA Friday. See you all then. Later.